you're gonna be, I should have done, hopefully the Wi-Fi won't matter. There we go, we're live, good.
Hello.
Hello everyone. We'll see if a few jump on. It's 9 o'clock, it's the Daily Bend, and I'm here with Jessi, and I promoed quite a bit, and so we'll just have some like jibber jabber for the first couple minutes, but I'm here in Murray in her beautiful place. Hopefully you'll join us, and hopefully you'll like and share and all that fun stuff. I guess the best way to start off is a couple of years ago, you know how I always talk about reaching out, and just out of the blue, this lady right here reached out to me, just, I don't know, it was like a messenger or something like that, and said, hey, I really kind of like what you're doing. You tell me more about it, and how are you, that kind of thing. And that's kind of how the friendship started. And I really wanted to have her on back then, but there was, I don't know, technical difficulties, who knows, because you guys know I've been doing this for a while, for years, but there's a lot of energy, a lot of amazement here with this lady. She, hopefully we can get through all of it. If we can't, we'll do a part 2. And she's thinking about doing her own podcast too, which that would be cool. I think you would connect with a lot of people. So the reason we're here, the reason why the Daily Bend every day is to connect people from, you know, all walks of life, making sure that we understand we're in this life together. There's challenges, there's adversities, but maybe we can pick up something from somebody as we reach out to one another and see if we can help each other in a world that's, sometimes we have answers, sometimes we don't have answers. So that's what the Daily Bend's all about. And Jessi was nice enough to say yes and all that fun stuff. And so as people are joining, it is the Daily Bend, it's 9 o'clock. We try and go live every day. And so I'm breathing. Here we go. I'm breathing, breathe. I've got some good coffee. We're ready to go. I just explained how we met, and it's been a while since I've seen her, and I know she's gone through life and things like that. She's a very accomplished businesswoman. I've posted all of her, hopefully you don't mind, all of her social media accounts and her mortgage company and all that kind of stuff. And so reach out to her if you have any questions, obviously about business, but also you're going to find she's rather energetic and very, very super intelligent and on and on and on and on. And she's and the obvious, she's okay to look at too. Let's put it that way too. So
thank you.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah.
And long introduction. This is an opportunity to kind of share your story or stories or chapters in your story. And it's softball. I just throw out the softballs. But if you thought about what you wanted to talk about today, let's kind of go through whatever you want to talk about again. I'd love to have you on again, maybe for a part 2, because I know we could probably sit here for 2 hours, but maybe the latest challenge or the latest adversities or the latest successes that have come from adversity that you'd want to share with everybody.
Yeah, so I think part of how we connected was also suicidality and our work in that space. So I think that's really relevant to talk about. So without going into my whole story, my brother, my only sibling, committed suicide when he was 13. I was 14. I found him. I was home. It very much shaped my life. This is back in 1996, where people didn't talk about suicide and religion still shamed suicide. So from what I understand now about neuroscience and the brain, that trauma rewired my brain. And so that experience very much shaped my life. It very much shaped the next 2 difficult decades of my life, where I put myself through a lot of trials. But I learned a lot about who I was and about survival. And then when I started speaking about suicidality, so for anyone that doesn't know this, if you are a sibling suicide survivor, you are 3 times more likely to commit suicide yourself or to have an attempt throughout your life. That's science now. They didn't know that back then. And so it's been a passion of mine to survive suicidality and then be active in the prevention realm. And I've learned a lot in that space. When I started, I guess, really talking about it 2.5 years ago is when the healing really started. I don't believe we're in a suicide epidemic. I believe we're in a shame epidemic, and our inability to talk about things.
Right.
And to, we've really built a culture that it's not necessarily safe to speak. And we don't hold space for people to do that, and we judge. And not hating on anybody. It's just, it's the current environment. It's the climate. And I think we're seeing right now that while it is dangerous to speak, it is more dangerous not to speak. And so when I started doing that and started just talking to people about my suicidality, the reception I got from people was so warm. And so I was actually pretty shocked. Like more than half of the people will relate to some level of suicidality. And they'll own it. They'll own it with you. They won't talk about it with other people, but in that conversation they will. And so I just saw the importance of continuing to talk about it. And so I think it's probably relevant to bring that up because it's something that, to be honest with you, it's something that I will fight my whole life. Right. It's something that I will deal with my whole entire life. And this whole Corona bullshit, the apocalypse has actually brought that back up for me in some ways, in dealing with those feelings again, and after being in a really, really good place for a really long time. And so it's been interesting to approach that with the tools I have, the neuroscience, information that I've accumulated.
We need to talk about that. You're watching the Daily Bend, and Jessi's with me today, and hopefully she's one of those that you want to come back over and over because she's got all kinds, and she's got her own stuff up too as well. Any questions, comments, please bring them up as we move on. We talked about suicide. We talked about all those things. What was it for you? So these last couple of years and even before, what was it for you? I try and ask everybody, what was it for you that really you never, there might have been attempts or there might have been other types of things, but what really kept you here? Was it realizing that it wasn't all about the shame, or was it something that you just needed to be here for? You wanted to be here for people, because you know what I mean. There's,
oh yeah, I know what you mean.
That panic. People get in that suicide. I call that suicide panic. Quite a bit.
So I wholeheartedly believe that we all came here with a purpose. I believe in. I'm super into consciousness. I believe in co-creation. I believe that we all came here with a purpose, and it's our job to shut out the noise, go within, and remember. And we all have a role to play in fixing this place. I don't believe that all these suicides are messages about these individual people. Like, we try to go save them at the last minute when they're about to jump off a building, but really what it is it's a message to the collective saying that we're living wrong. We're not living in a way that is conducive for spiritual beings. We're, we've got, if you look at the prescriptions being doled out and the number of suicides and just people robotically moving through life without, we're buying happiness and seeking it externally because we just haven't cultivated a life that I believe that is optimal for our human evolution. And so when I get to that point where I'm super fucking suicidal, that's where I go. I remember, I'm getting chills, that I'm here for a damn reason, and my job is to remember what I'm here for and to fix this place. I also, I have a child. That's awesome. An anchor downstairs,
fix
and
this
so
place. That's a great one. Fix this place.
Yeah, and I want to, we're all inheriting a world that we didn't create, that we didn't, we're inheriting problems that we didn't create, but that doesn't mean it's not our job to take a look at them, analyze them, and fix them. I believe in creating a better world for my child to inherit. And I think there's an evolution taking place, and that there are some beautiful things on the horizon. And so taking myself out now would just be dumb, but that doesn't change one thing.
That's awesome. Taking myself out now would be dumb.
Yeah.
That's great. That's good advice for everybody out there. Taking yourself out would be dumb.
You're gonna
Stick
miss
around.
The Hunger Games.
There's great people like this around that can help you out. Or at least you can look at their lives and know that, we all go through stuff. We all go through everything. My other question on that was, obviously you have a son, right? Mm-hmm. And trying to teach him, of the world and all that kind of stuff. And he's probably pretty lucky. your posts, if you guys are to go, I've posted some of your social media stuff. Most of your posts are very very uplifting, very honest, very transcendent, all those great words genuine, that kind of stuff. Talk to me about why and what, was there a moment that kind of just snapped in the last couple of years or the last year? You just went, I need to do this. Not only for me and you and all that, but just for everybody. I kind of want to inspire and motivate people.
Do you want to know the truth?
Yeah,
This is kind of a funny story. My teeth look good, huh?
They look wonderful.
Thank you. Okay, so they're 100% fake. They're all fake. I do not have any actual teeth. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got a car accident the year before my son was born. I rolled my blazer 5 times with a metal tongue ring and I clamped it. Long story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was like a lot of dental work. I was going to have to essentially get redone every 5 to 10 years unless I got bridges, and long story. But so and that happened when I was 24. And really for like a decade, I kind of thought that my 2 front teeth I chopped those in half 3 times. I had crowns in each quadrant of my mouth, 2 in 3 quadrants and 3 in another. They were breaking, they were glued together. I'm just being raw, dude. That's how I roll. And I was like, I kind of thought I was going to have to kill myself when I had to tell people about my teeth.
Oh, really?
I was so ashamed of it. I lived in so much shame for it. I'm from Texas, and I thought that made it worse. This is how dumb my head works. And then I got to the point where I was like, I got to do something about it. And so,
well, not to interrupt, but we see the signs on the side of the highway. It's always like, improve your smile. We assume that if you improve your smile, you're going to get a job. You're going to get a date.
And we make fun of, they're toothless, right, or they're missing.
Right.
We're dicks about it.
Right. We
so,
can be.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
When I decided to do something about it, it's not a quick procedure. It's a lot, and I ended up having to tell people. And I thought for sure they were not going to want to be my friend anymore, and they were going to hate me. And
my gosh!
No one gave a shit.
Yeah.
No one cared. And then I was like, wait, I just lifted all that shame, and now I got a plan for my future because I guess I'm not going to kill myself about this now. And that's when I just started. Actually, that was before I started.
Did you guys hear that? That's awesome. It's true though. Most people don't care. They
don't give a shit.
You got no leg, you got whatever. Most people don't care.
No.
They really don't.
Yeah, and being human is hard, you guys. Being human is really hard, and no one does care. People will love you anyways, and if they don't, let them fucking go.
Right.
You don't need them around anyways. That's not the kind of people you need around you.
I'm relearning that almost every day, because I can be a very polarizing, and I know you too as well, can polarize people, but anyway.
Me?
And not in a bad way, in a good way. So your teeth were kind of the subject of, hey, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm gonna go out there and.
What else can I dig up that I call it shame snuggies. I talk about how we all walk around living in a shame snuggie, and so I was like, what else is buried in here? What other boxes are down here with cobwebs that I've shoved so low down here that I don't want people to know about me? Because once I started unpacking those and just letting them out into the open, and nobody cared like I thought they would, but it was having an awesome effect on me. I was starting to really walk in my truth, and that's when self-love happens and confidence happens, and that's when I talked earlier about remembering why we came here. When you're walking around in that shame snuggie, it's almost like an antenna blocker for the information around you and for your connection to your higher self and for your purpose. You're so consumed with those thoughts that you're not able to think creatively and accomplish what you're supposed to accomplish here. And I skipped a lot of steps in explaining that, but that's actual truth.
Sure.
And so, once I got addicted to letting the stuff go, and then I was like, also I was suicidal and I tried to kill myself and my brother killed himself. And then I don't know, whatever else I could find,
Right. That's awesome. This is awesome stuff. You have any questions or comments, please throw them up there. Again, it's a daily bend at 9 o'clock. We're going to go till whenever we feel like we can. We'll do a part 2 eventually. But my other question was, so what, obviously teeth, but then I would imagine, you know, relationships and work and things like that. What defines you before this kind of your own new transformation? Were you defined by your job, or were you defined by the worry? Were you defined by shame? Were you, you know what I mean? Because I know I've been very open about, you know, you go through a lot, for men, you go through a lot of professions, or we want to provide for our kids. We want to provide for people. We want to be that, you know, that knight in shining armor. And when something cuts us off and we're not able to do that, at least I can speak for a few men, we feel very shameful. We are guilty. We go, holy crap, how am I going to make my next, you know, $10 so I can pay for this? And it defines us. So professions, not to a huge extent, but professions had defined me, or at least work had defined me. Sure. Instead of realizing, oh, I'm Bo. This is, you know, I'm a good person. I'm trying my hardest. I'm not sitting around, you know, doing whatever. So that, I know it's a long intro to a question.
That's all, by the way, that is an entire episode that desperately needs to be done, is toxic masculinity. And we, as a culture, we have cultivated this definition of masculinity that is just a recipe for shame. And we have not, we haven't taught anybody, but especially our men, emotional intelligence. We haven't held space for them to release their emotions. And in fact, all anger is repressed emotion. Well,
and you, not to interrupt again, but I am a huge proponent. I mean, I want to start having man camps.
Yes.
And I want
drum
what I want there too is, I should say what I want. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see women, young, you know, moms involved, you know, maybe single or not, involved in it with their sons. And because men have been emasculated.
Yes.
We allow it. I mean, sometimes we're victims of it, but we need to stand, not be assholes, but stand up and say, look, this is my heart. So yeah, we need to go there. We need to go there. We need to go there. It goes from everything from manners around women to responsibility of children, you know, all those things, but keep the shame out of it. But just know that men are different than women, you know, and we need to have, anyway, that's a whole nother, we should come back and do that one. That would be a fun one.
We need to focus on, we need to hold space for vulnerability. Vulnerability is actually that's what we're talking about when we talk about all this. And it's one of the most.
What do you say to those out there that say, oh, vulnerabilities, you know, that's stupid. I love this idea. Rochelle.
I love you, Rochelle.
Yeah, count me in. My
Tiny,
little man.
shiny.
My middle man deserves something like a man. That's awesome. Yeah, we're going to go more with that. And maybe you and I can kind of pioneer that.
She would be an amazing co-creator with this. She's actually who taught me a lot of this. Because so you asked, to get back to your question a little bit, you asked what I define myself. I have very masculine energy. We all have both feminine and masculine energy. It's not a gender thing. It's a balance of energies, okay? And so owning, you know, and the key is to having those energies in balance. There's specific traits that are associated with each of them.
Sure.
We've created a very overly masculine society and culture, and that's why we see the problems that we see. That's why we see what's happening with capitalism. That's why we see what's happening with our ecology. But I was an achiever. So for the first 10 years after my brother killed himself, I was a shit show. That was my job. My job was to be a shit show. And it was gnarly and it was terrible. And then I got pregnant, and so I had that car accident, and I kind of got my shit together a little bit after that. Making bad
choices?
All kinds. I'm a professional bad decision maker, but I don't learn when you tell me something. It's not like, Jessi, you're going to learn because I'm going to tell you not to do this. Like, I got to go through it and take you through that one, right?
Gotcha.
I got to swim through it.
Okay.
And then I learn, and it's wonderful. But, so I was an achiever. I was, and I was winning 3D land. I was winning 3D world. I was winning by everybody else's standards. I was an account executive. I was in sales. Kicking ass. I worked my way up to the president of my state association. I was lobbying in DC. I was killing it, as I've been a truly single mom ever since he was born. His dad cheated on me when I was 7 months pregnant, and I'm not sad about it. It's fine. But I've chosen a hard life for myself, and I've continued to choose a hard life for myself. I moved out here by myself. Brought him. My parents are in Texas. I don't have any family here. It's almost 8 years ago now. And I just do hard things, and that's why I'm confident enough to keep doing hard things, because that's where you find yourself. That's where you grow. That's where you figure yourself out. You don't figure yourself out in the wins.
Amen.
You gotta fall and fail and try to fall and fail forward, and sometimes you don't, and you gotta pick yourself up from backward, and that's where character is built. That's where, like, suffering drives you deep, and yeah, I wouldn't trade it. I think we need to understand that this world, we try to mask and avoid our emotions so much as a species. And we're taught that, like, life is about being happy and you're not supposed to feel these, avoid pain. But really, your power's in your pain. And we experience the human experience is about emotion. And it's about learning to move through it. And you almost have to love the pain as much as the passion. And because it's all part of who you are and how you show up in the world. And so, it was achieving. And then, but I was still very stoic. I was still I hadn't tackled personal vulnerability. I was very truthful in the business world. And I learned accountability very young. I was a very accountable person. I would take accountability for whatever my underwriters did at my company. My dad just instilled it in me. It was like, all there is the truth. There's not like and that's the kind of person people want to be around, is somebody that vibrates truth. Like, if you can own up to your shit, I'm gonna forgive you for it and trust that you're at least self-aware enough not to. But if you're not gonna own up to it and you're gonna point fingers and be and look externally, I don't want to fucking be around you, because you can't own your shit. And like, that's just, I live in reality, and apparently you don't want to live in yours.
Right.
And so I just threw vulnerability in there, and then everything kind of changed.
How do you see yourself now? I mean, do you see yourself as there's a nice... It's not how many times you've gotten kicked down. That's right, girlfriend. It's how many times you pull up,
exactly,
and back up, and all that kind of stuff.
And that shit's hard, but that's where you figure out what you're made of, right? Like, I don't want to be the lucky person that's never fallen. Like, you don't know how to do shit.
I always say that life is difficult and challenging and adverse, with little sprinkles of joy in between it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, it is. I mean, a child is born, you might, find love.
And then you have to raise it for 18 years.
Or longer.
God.
Or longer. How do you, so now, I mean, I get this question came to me last night because I wanted to ask it. And how do you see yourself now? How do you see yourself today? And let's answer that one first, and then the future kind of a thing.
I see myself as a continuously evolving part of humanity. We're all connected. We are one universal consciousness. And I see myself as like an emotional toddler, learning how to move through emotions. I grant myself so much grace for it. I think I've realized just how hard being human is now. And I try to see myself more humbly. I see my role in raising the level of consciousness of humanity, and kind of, we're all walking each other home. And I'm grateful that I've been through my awakening and been taken to the information that I've been taken to, so that I have this level of understanding, because it's not the mainstream story. And I believe it has a lot to do with our suicidality. I believe it has a lot to do with our shame levels, because when you believe your life is sacred, you don't want to end it. Mm-hmm. And we're not taught how sacred our lives are. We're taught that we're separate, and we're taught to give our power, this is going to be real unpopular, but we're taught to give our power over to religion and pray to somebody else, when we don't understand that, thousands of scientific experiments, like quantum physics is one of the most proven things out there, but consistently showing what a role intentionality and consciousness plays in the outcome of these.
So what you're projecting and what you're thinking is exactly what your reality is or will be.
Yeah, we are co-creating.
That's
our
why
lives,
she's such a
100%.
great guest. Yes.
And there's some really, really cool evidence and experiment. I mean, it's freaking weird. It very much. I mean, there's a cognitive dissonance you experience when you really learn what this world is and what we're capable of, but we're not touching our human potential. With this, there is consciousness is raising. Universal consciousness is a thing. The collective consciousness is increasing, and we are realizing, we are taking our power back and realizing, the control we have over our lives and over our creative expression, right? And the power. They don't call it spelling for no reason. Words are spells. So what we're telling ourselves, what we're thinking, becoming conscious of our thoughts, conscious of our actions, conscious of, our bodies are biologically wired to interact with the field of information that exists in between all of us. And quantum physics is effectively the study, of that field of information. There's a field of information between you and I that holds a lot of capabilities that we're just now getting to the point of exploring, because we're very much, a lot of our thinking patterns have been based on Newtonian physics and a flawed experiment from the late 1880s at the end of the spiritual revolution that tried to disprove the field, and that proved temporarily that we were all disconnected. But there were a profound physicists, like some of the most influential physicists of the last 100 years, believed in the field. Albert Einstein knew about the field. He called it spooky action at a distance when he talked about quantum entanglement. But it bugged the shit out of him, because it's something that it's the study of the intangible. It's not a physical thing. It's not matter for us to study, right? It's a very spiritual thing to try to understand, and it's well beyond our human comprehension.
Right.
But it's fucking magic.
Put your seatbelts on. We've gotten into a great conversation. If you have any questions or comments, please throw them out there. I appreciate you watching. It's the Daily Bend every day at 9 o'clock in the morning, or at least we try every day at 9 o'clock. I was very excited to have Jessi on, and I hope to have her on quite a bit and do some collaboration with some other stuff. But you brought up Albert Einstein, and I got to throw this one out there. Yeah. I don't know if it was just recently that a letter was opened by his granddaughter that he wrote to her, or his daughter. I can't remember what it is, that actually wasn't supposed to be, it was sealed until, maybe it was just till now or a couple of years ago, or people talk about it now as he talks about love. He talks about the energy of love. Yeah, I've got to do some digging on it, because it was something that was held. I don't know how it was held, but it was a letter. I think it was a letter to his granddaughter or something. And he told someone or whatever to have them open it up, like not 100 years, but like 75 or 50 years after he died. And amongst all the things that he did, he really, truly, and I heard somebody read part of it. It was on some show, but it was all about the energy and the energy of love, and how we don't take it for granted. I'm not just talking about this
emotions
kind of love,
have frequency, but everything
and I gotta find it,
Einstein was
here I am bringing it up, and I should have done my research, or I should have brought it, but I didn't think, I totally remembered it now when you said things we don't really know of, and we're kind of still exploring and all that kind of stuff. And Albert Einstein, the guy we think he was so intelligent, and all the other things he did, but the basic part of, his message to his granddaughter, whatever, was, 50 years was love. So good morning.
Do you know why that's so relevant right now? I'm glad you brought it up. It's relevant because so all emotions have frequencies, right? And fear actually vibrates at like 100, I believe. So there's a spectrum of emotions, right? And I'm gonna get all sciencey on you, but our cells operate at optimal levels when the frequency, when the signal is coherent. Okay, and so at a higher vibration, fear, like I said, vibrates at like 100. All dis-ease is effectively the lowering of frequency. So when you're talking about something like coronavirus, we have two protection systems. We have an internal protection system and an external protection system, right? Our autonomic nervous system, we have our parasympathetic and our sympathetic. So we have our immune system, which is our internal protection system, and then we have our fight or flight, which is our external protection system. And we have a limited amount of energy, right? We have a finite amount of energy. We have...
Depending on how much coffee we drink.
Exactly.
Sorry.
You're totally good. Yeah. Coffee is, I don't know where that falls in. But so when we're living in that fear, we are, okay, so the hormone cocktail produced by stress is responsible for incoherence, which is responsible for disease. And in incoherence, our cells aren't performing optimally. Our DNA shrinks up and shrivels up, and it doesn't do what it's supposed to. Awesome, right? and we're living in
ugly.
high frequency emotions, and we're coherent, we are able to we're not expending a bunch of our energy on the external fight or flight system, which if you're fighting off a cold and you're being chased by a bear, you know, you're going to want that energy. It's okay to defer that energy from the cold to the bear. Like, let's run away from the bear or the tiger, right? Because that's a bigger danger to us than our cold.
Exactly.
Right? But that system hasn't evolved properly, or we've created a society that somehow keeps us in those, fear keeps us in those stress hormones, which, I mean, that's our body's biology. That determines what chemicals are released by our pineal, by our pituitary, by our hypothalamus, and those are the glands that regulate things like our mood, our sleep patterns, our circadian rhythm, our immune system, and so when that's off balance, when that's incoherent, we're not able to fight off things like a coronavirus. And like if you listen to some of these doctors, that's part of what they're saying, is that these patients, well, they're dying of it. Their immune systems are attacking themselves. It's not the actual coronavirus. It's these cytokine storms. It's the inflammation, and it's the immune system attacking itself, much like an autoimmune. That's why autoimmune drugs are working to bring these people back from the dead. But if we were, and that's why it's so frustrating to me to see the media putting out the stories they're putting out. They're not even talking about human biology. I've not seen anybody talk about human biology and like what you think, what you expose yourself to, what you eat. You know, detoxification, I just told you this a second ago, but in biohacking, you learn detoxification is becoming more important than nutrition as far as optimizing our health. And part of detoxification is the information you're consuming, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're consuming all this fear-based, low-vibe, negative bullshit information, politics, bullshit, China, I mean, anything about Bill Gates right now? Yeah, that motherfucker. It's lowering your vibration. And like whenever I was kind of suicidal lately, I had to realize that I'm going down all these rabbit trails and realizing just how much truth isn't out there and how hard it is to get the truth out there. Right now, the level of censorship is something we all need to be concerned with. Yeah. Like, how much bullshit information is out there? And all of a sudden, you want to stop us from talking about non-native electromagnetic frequencies that we know are harmful. There's a report, I know this is rabbit trailing from your question.
No, there's a lot of, no.
But there's a report called the Freiberger Appeal from 2002. And it was 3,000 world-renowned scientists and medical professionals calling for a halt on wireless expansion on Earth and a complete moratorium on wireless expansion in space. Moratorium means stop, fucking done, until we could explore it further, because we're living in an experiment in these non-native EMF waves, right? And the appeal was based on 10,000 peer-reviewed studies showing how harmful 10,000 how harmful non-native electromagnetic frequencies are to not only our human biology but our entire ecology. Right. And the impacts are devastating. They're devastating. Like the native frequencies are how we regulate our immune system and our mood and our circadian rhythm, our sleep patterns. It's how we stay out of depression, right? So when you know that this level of science is out there, and the WHO was behind it through 2007, they were like, yeah, we need to upgrade the danger of non-native EMF waves. The military uses non-native EMF waves as weapons. So did what's the HARP, the geoengineering weather bullshit that they had to close because it was shady as fuck. Oh yeah. That was a lot based on electromagnetic frequencies. So it wants to understand that we're suppressing that information that is fact-based science. Is dangerous for people, and especially when people are taking mainstream media as their source of information. You can't anymore. Like it's programming is what it is. It's not information. And so I think
what do we believe nowadays? I mean, this whole corona extra light thing has really kind of brought us to our knees.
Oh my God! Here's my freedom.
We're still quarantining and all that kind of stuff. Interesting. We need to explore more of that as time. Yeah, I haven't either really at all.
We're not socially distant right now.
Yeah, it hasn't been. And that's I lost my thought because I know the whole idea of so what have you been doing through this whole? Yeah, that was my thought. What have you been doing through this whole corona thing and all that kind of stuff? I mean,
so I think awareness is powerful. I think it's something that we have to, you know, we need to take responsibility for the information we consume and for awareness about what's going on. But when I got too aware, I got too rabbit trailed into the information, I had to pull myself out of it. And I really work to manage my frequency. So I meditate, I focus on my thoughts. I spend a lot of time outside, moving my body. Movement is medicine. I journal, and I make sure, like, one of the most powerful things that I can do for myself to stay in alignment is to express my creativity and to do what I can about the problem and about to raise the awareness about the positive things. And, you know, I've been into quantum physics and neuroscience and epigenetics and all of these things, you know, and recently biohacking, I picked up biohacking is what I did. But I focus on what I eat. You know, I don't drink. And honestly, I started being with my community again. Not being with our community is harmful for us. We are social beings, and we need to be around our communities. We need to be around our communities to build the immunity in the first place.
Yeah. So. That's the connection between man and horse, too. Oh, Dante's plugging his heroes thing.
Yes, there's energy.
Yeah, Dante has, it's called Headed Home. It's a horse equine thing here in, you know, therapy for vets and first responders out in Magna. You should meet him. Great guy.
Connect. That's beautiful.
Funny thing you should say that, because again, I didn't do as much time as I have my research, but what came up on my feed was George Carlin, the comedian, his old gag on germs and immune system. I don't know when he did it. I think he did it like 10 years before he died or whatever. If any of you haven't seen it, it's about 6 minutes. Just YouTube George Carlin and germs and immunity. And it's, you know, I mean, obviously we have a virus, but it's funny how, you know, we always have there's always something around, and that's what our immune system's for. And so I wasn't going to go deep into that, but, you know, look at it. It's hilarious. You know, George Carlin, and it's so true today.
For anybody on the verge of waking up, like, that's where the questions come in. Like, I just posted this morning, but why is the mainstream media why is biology being left out of the corona conversation? True. You know, our human biology is the primary, I mean, that's how we beat this thing. Like, why is biology being left out of the conversation? And the answer is, like, you asked and this ties into what I was doing a minute ago. That stuff's free. It doesn't, I'm not buying medicine from anybody. I'm not taking a vaccine from somebody with a, you know, ulterior motive or with an agenda. There's nobody that can make money off the things that I can do to raise my vibration personally. And so that stuff's not being touted. It's not being talked about. Like, when you look at the mask thing, you look at the biology behind wearing masks and the biology behind isolation and really understand, you know, you have some questions on what the fuck is really going on here? What are we doing? You know? And then you'll rabbit trail into the treatment and understand that it just keeps going. So
the reason why I had you on is because I wanted everything that you have to, you know, to talk about. The one thing that's very interesting, so very successful. If you've joined us, this is the Daily Bend. There we go. This is the Daily Bend. I've got a good friend who I haven't seen for a while, who is just, I mean, if you're just joining us or you're just checking it out, please like, please share, please watch it again if you didn't watch the beginning, but you'll kind of get the whole progression. And she's got her tin hat on. And she does that a lot. What do you try and do so please go to her sites, you know, be friend. I think you got enough to have friends all over the place, but all her social media sites, her postings are pretty uplifting and they're raw, they're vulnerable. You know, we talk about that word vulnerable, but I think you've not only helped a lot of women, but I think you've helped a lot of men as well.
Thank you.
You know, I really believe that, because she does very vulnerable stuff and stuff that she talks about. You know, tell me a little bit about that. Do you have an agenda, not a bad agenda, a good agenda every day or every week, or there are things that you want to get into, and you talked about having your own podcast, which you should have. I mean, I think you should definitely look at that.
People have been asking me about my podcast for like 2 years.
Well, you need anything.
Do you want to hear what it's going to be called?
Sure.
Don't say fuck. I want to weed out the people that I don't really. Right. I know it does kind of look like a Hershey Kiss.
I love that.
I know. I'm gonna like wrap a fedora so I can have a more stylish one soon. So no, a lot of it's just life experience. So it's like whatever comes up that week is something I'll talk about, right? Sometimes there'll be something in the back of my head that I'm like, I need to post about this. I need to post about this. The podcast is just gonna, like, being human is hard, and there's not enough people out there, you know, and I get reinforcement from people I'm around, which is what keeps me going with all of this. But there's just not a lot of people out there talking about their raw truths and just putting it all out there. And like, I will put anything out there. Like, I will burn it all down for the truth. I will hand over my truth. Like, I've been engaged 3 times. I've broken all 3 engagements. Like, I probably will never get, I don't even know that I believe in the construct of marriage anymore. I'm not worried about what other people think about me. And that in itself just, there's something called mirror neurons. And when you see somebody else speaking their truth, when you see somebody else doing anything, your brain doesn't differentiate between you having that experience and them having that experience, right? It can't differentiate between thinking about an experience and actually having an experience. And it teaches you, when you see somebody else doing something, that you can do it as well. It's almost this level, this like permission that's extended. And so that's really my goal, my agenda, is giving people permission to speak their truths, because I know how healing that is. And when we can walk in our own truths, we can start walking in our collective truth, because we are not walking in a collective truth. We're walking in a sea of fucking bullshit, and you can't get to the truth. And it's no wonder that vibrates low, and it's hard for people to live in. When you can't trust the information you're receiving, you know, that impacts your quality of life. That impacts your existence on this planet, on this plane. There is something I wanted to bring up. So an autocracy, like, people keep hearing me talk about this, and I keep hashtagging it, and they're like, what the fuck is an autocracy? I'm writing it. I'm going to teach you what it is. But it's effectively like Einstein, you can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it, right?
Correct.
And our system is corrupt right now. I spent 5 years in DC lobbying on behalf of my industry for, you know, consumer advocacy. And there's just so much corruption and everything right now. We need to start voting with our dollars. We need to start giving our business to people in our communities that are telling us the truth, that are giving us the information from their experience. There's something called gnosis, and that is an understanding, an inner knowing, experiential knowledge, self-learning. We can't just count on what we're being told by other people anymore. We can't count on what we're being told by news outlets. We can't count on what we're even being taught in school. I mean, we've got universities teaching fucking degrees for jobs that are going to be non-existent by the time the kids graduate, right? Like, it's just, there's a lot of bullshit that exists in the university system. So, and we need to be furthering the people in our communities. These big businesses are not proving to be benevolent with their profits and their earnings. They're running profits offshore. They're not paying taxes on the money that they are earning. And they're not. When's the last time Amazon did some shit for your community? You know, and like, as hard as it is to not shop on Amazon, I understand. Trust me, I understand. Like 3 years ago, I would have bought milk on Amazon if I could have. You know what I mean? Right. But I think you can now. Right. But if we're being honest, we're trading, you know, comfort and convenience for our freedom and for the thriving of our communities. And I believe wholeheartedly that it's really important that we start working with individuals that we know what their agenda is in life. We know what they're doing. We know that they're out there speaking their truth, trying to make things better. Not that they're, you know, there's a lot of people that are out there just to win, just to make money, just to profit. We need to start working with conscious businesses, voting with our dollars, supporting the people in our communities with agendas that are like-minded with ours that we also support. That's the community I want to build. So that'll be part of the goal of the, yeah.
That's the passion. So work is work, and the passion is something different.
I mean, mine's all tied in together. Like, this autocracy is going to be on the blog site or on the blog post on the Kismet website. Like, Kismet means fate. I came into it, you know, that's how I got involved in all this. That's one thing I didn't put in there was the your website. So is your website partially business and then part, well, business, but I mean, you did. It's on there. It's on there.
Okay. It
is, and it's on my link on my Insta bio. If you go to my website, like, So it's funny, when I opened the company, we were doing our research, and I opened the company because of the bullshit in DC. But when we were doing our research, we looked at all the other mortgage companies. They were all blue and orange websites that had like houses and keys and some couple that was hopefully like interracial and not just two white people. And it was so fucking boring. And my website doesn't even talk about mortgaging. It's like, it's female owned. It's me and my girlfriends. I'm in like a midriff. Now, I mean, there's like side boob in one of the pictures. There's animals. It talks about transparency, vulnerability. It doesn't even talk about lending, because who gives a shit about, I'm one of the smartest mortgage people in the state, and there's several people that can account for that. I spent a decade having to be smarter than underwriters. So I am a complete guideline nerd. I don't need to tell you that on my website. I don't need to, I don't need to teach you about conventional versus FHA versus whatever. Like, no, we're going to have a conversation and I'm going to teach you about it. And then if you want resources, I'll send them to you. But, yeah, so it's an interesting website. You should check it out just to check it out. Like,
check it out.
It doesn't look like a mortgage website.
KISMET.com. .com. Yeah, definitely. Parenting. What are you trying to teach your son? And what in your opinion, obviously we need a revamp of our educational system, but just what are you doing as a mom that might help, a mom of a son as well, that, to help them out a little bit, and they might connect with you. Again, you're watching the Daily Bend. If, you have a connection, please, if you have love for you to reach out to her, and that's what this show is all about. It's all about connecting people that, we're all going through life together in this thing, and we can all help each other. You may not connect with me, but I don't know how you could not connect with her and her energy. So what are you doing?
I have some quotes that are about parenting that I was sending to my friend Rebecca in case she watches this. So I don't hide shit from him. Really. I let him, I don't know if I'm going to be able
You're friends with Rebecca Cummings, right?
Well?
Yeah,
I was looking at a post of,
good lady.
It's Justina's birthday today. I think. Happy birthday, Justina, if you end up watching this. All these shout outs that you guys aren't going to have any idea are on here. I love some of these quotes. I'm just going to read like a handful of quotes. The greatest burden that a child can bear is the unlived life of a parent. So one thing I do is I fucking live. I live my life, and I live my truth, and I walk in it. My children do not need me to save them. They need to watch me save myself. I let him see me save myself. I let him see me struggle. I don't hide. I believe that this, especially in Utah, no offense, Utah, I really love you.
No, there's a lot of people out there that know what we're talking about. They
hide so much shit, and then these kids grow up and they feel they're unprepared. They feel betrayed. They feel, the world isn't what they thought, and that's an ego death. Like, that's a painful ass ego death.
Sure.
And so I don't hide those things from, and a woman becomes a responsible parent when she stops being an obedient daughter. Sorry, my parents actually are amazing, and they were like, fly.
Girl.
Yeah, they didn't put any dogma on me. I wasn't raised in a religious household. It was very much just tell the truth, take accountability, and be love, you know? And then fly, like, change the world, girl. Like, they raised me to believe that I was here to change the world. I already thought that I was here to change the world. So I just run around like I'm here to change the world and just experience life and have fun. And that's what I do. I don't hide my failures. I don't hide my darkness. And I make him talk to me about his, we talk about all the things, and I try to teach him that emotions are part of life and pain is part of life, and, not to avoid it. And, being human is hard. Being a teenager is hard. I don't shame him,
Right.
And I don't pretend like they're not doing shit that we did. Like, that's also super dumb. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. We talk a lot, just with the Bowed Not Broken stuff, we talk a lot about personal influence. And it's unfortunate that people don't realize, even people that feel they're so insignificant and they have so much shame, yet they have so much influence on people, whether it be their children, their grandchildren, friends, co-workers, whatever. Any thoughts about that? There was an essay done, it was back in 1903, by a guy by the name of William George Jordan, 1903. It was called The Art of Manliness. And it doesn't just apply to men, it applies to human beings and kind of that woeful, kind of that people don't realize until you go to a funeral and you talk good about somebody. We always talk about when we reach out, when I ask people to reach out every day, reach out to them and let them know how much, what they may have done, whether it was a phone call, whether it was an influence, whatever. Let them know how they affected them, because guess what? It's important for us to hear that back. It's not, it is kind of an ego thing, but it's an important thing for ourselves to hear how we've influenced somebody so we don't forget. And we talked about suicide, and we talked about how people get so distraught. Your thoughts. That was a huge lead into the power of personal influence and not knowing.
It's beautiful. And God, that's such an important thing right now. First of all, the world is desperate for leaders right now. The world needs leaders. And we're all leaders. Every single one of you is a leader. We all have a sphere of influence. We have toll booths in Texas, right? And like the attitude of the toll booth person could change my day back in the day, right? Because back in the day, you actually had to like give them change or deal with them, right?
Right.
And like if they were nice and they were smiley and they had like good energy, that shit got on me. And and that shit influenced me. Like that saying that you're a culmination of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but I don't know what the actual saying is the truth. You are always influencing somebody. You are influencing your children. You are influencing your family. You are influencing the people you walk by at the store. I've noticed so much, so I walk the park frequently. And throughout this, the kind of Corona rollout, there was a time where people would not come anywhere near you. They had masks on. Masks also make it weird, so you can't tell if people are smiling at you or giving you like a fucking, you can see stank eye, but you can't see stank mouth. And like, I don't know, I just never really gave a shit about 6 feet. And I don't know, I just kind of watched people and like their energy sucked. And like going through a walk in the park could like make your day worse because it was just like so awkward and fucking weird. And
well, it's the only contact you're having, and it's a negative contact.
And it's icky, and you're just like, all right, fine, fuck off, I'll go back to my house, and be by myself. But you have so much influence and so much power all the time. Your energy is speaking when your words are not. So that's another thing is people try to parent their kids and they're like, I'm going to tell them this. Your energy is saying something else, and kids are smart when it comes to energy. Kids are our greatest teachers. They know more than we do. They're not as programmed and conditioned as we are. They see right through that shit, and that messes with them because it's incoherence. It's incoherence between behavior and spoken word, and they learn to distrust people. So, being accountable for your energy and knowing that you don't always have to be happy, move through those emotions, but you're always influencing the people around you, whether it's with your words or with your energy, and it's powerful. You have a lot of power over those people that you don't realize.
Right.
And
very true.
Right now, like look how everyone else is acting. People are acting like complete fucking idiots. Like this is your time to go do whatever it is you want. Like honestly, like if you try new things, try speaking your unapologetic truth for a couple days and see how it goes. There's going to be some hard moments. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. But like everyone else is being so ridiculous. I feel like now's the time to do whatever you want, really.
It's been an hour and I could go for another 2. Will you please come back on? Will you invite me again, maybe next week or whatever?
I'd love to.
So much to talk about. You can see the energy here, and you can see how much she influences people. Any kind of on a last note, you've obviously affected people, and maybe a success. Do you have a little success story as of late that somebody connected with you, maybe out of the blue, maybe not recently, maybe it was a while ago, and they just said, want to be your friend, and you guys have kind of, not had it.
Oh, that happens to me daily. I'll share something. So I see frequency. So everybody has a frequency, and you put out a vibration. The hippies had it right. So you're a culmination of all the things you consume: information, food, all kinds of things, right? And I feel like frequency is a pyramid, and down here is fear. People walking around in fear that vibrate low. And as you raise your vibration, as the higher your vibe, the smaller your tribe. But the universe does this work. As you go up this pyramid or whatever, the universe does its work and it connects you with other people on that frequency, within that frequency band, right? The law of attraction, like it's science. And those people start coming into your life and supporting the work you're doing, or the people that need your message are the ones that are going to be connected with it and hear it. So yeah, I mean, I put out that post about suicidality in Corona, right? Because some of us that have done work in that realm, like, we're afraid to come out and be like, oh, I'm actually suicidal right now, right? But we are sometimes, you know, and am I going to go do anything? Like, sometimes people will occasionally call the cops and they'll come to my house because people think I'm saying that. I'm not going to kill myself. Like, I'm just trying to normalize the conversation, because it's such, honestly, the way the society we've cultivated, wanting to kill yourself is sometimes part of life. And it doesn't mean we're all like, you know, putting guns in our mouths, but even just, ideation or the slight thought here and there, like, what if I just didn't have to be here, or whatever it is. But normalizing that conversation and coming out and saying, hey, I experience this still. It's part of life right now. Here's the things I do to try to help it. But even then I struggle for a minute. Just that me too for people is huge. And sometimes that's what people need to hear. And I had a lot of feedback from those posts. I think that might be why you reached out to me to do this, because there's a lot of other people going through that right now. Like, this Corona shit vibrates way low and it drops our vibration. And that's, mental health is also disease. It's the lowering of frequency and vibration. And when we're in that space, we're not full of joy and happiness, right? And so, yeah, there's been several people that kind of reached out there, and we're just, grateful for somebody putting out some fucking truth in this sea of
bullshit.
Yes.
I see Nettie Frake might be on for a minute, but Nettie's an amazing chef and is an influencer as well. She's like a winner of like worldwide chef things, and she had the donut place and all. You guys need to connect, because Nettie's I'm just bragging about Nettie because she's always on like Channel 2, Channel 5.
Nettie, do you do anything with like food sourcing, or like are you paying attention to the seeds and the beef? Because that's something that's in my space that I'm curious about right now, and I'd love.
She's putting on. So you want to be friends with her? You guys need to connect, because she's putting on She's even doing via the virtual stuff. She does classes for health and things. She has struggled with, and she's been on my little show. She's struggled with depression and things like that. And so, like,
food is
everybody
medicine.
has. Like, everybody
food is
has.
medicine.
And she has some great ideas. But anyway, the only reason I do that's random. But Nettie, I love you. I haven't talked to you for a while, but want to talk to you here soon. Any final words? You have just hopefully we can come back and do. There's so much more that I want to talk to you about, because you're a great interviewer, interviewee, or whatever you call it, and all the things that you have, and it's a lot. It's all about truth. That's the thing about you. There's nothing holding back. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope you'll share it. I hope you'll watch it. Those of you who didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing, and we'll get to some more time, but I'm going to give you the last word on the Daily Bend, and then we'll wrap it up.
I would say, like, we touched on so many things, and like some of the things that I have studied are like up here. So if there's anything you guys want to hear more about, like, drop a comment or something and let us know so we can pick that up for the next time around. But I honestly, so here's what I would say. Being human is hard. I cannot stress that enough. Like, being human is really hard. Grant yourself grace for being human, and give radical honesty a try, just for a couple days. You're going to piss some people off. It's going to be uncomfortable.
Radical honesty.
Radical honesty. Say what you're thinking. Tell people what you're thinking about them. If, and if somebody's hurt your feelings, just, there's so much power in your approach, but speak that to them. Try radical accountability, radical honesty for a couple days. Being human is hard. We have cultivated a space where it's not necessarily safe to speak your truth, right? It's dangerous to speak your truth, but in a time like this, it's more dangerous not to. I put myself out there all the time with my truth, and I get roasted for it, but I get appreciated for it far more often. And it doesn't matter. It's about what it does for me, right? Try that for a little bit. See what you learn about yourself. Take the feedback. Take the criticism, and do what you can with it. But see what that does for your psyche. Just walk in your truth for a couple days, and then come tell us about it. Come tell us about your wins, because it is life-changing. The things so often we're afraid to say something or afraid to be honest about something, and we're afraid to, speak up about something when the rewards for doing so, and the world needs us to, the world needs leaders, but they're huge. So give it a shot and then come tell me about it, because it's going to change your damn life.
And that's it. Life's all about the bend, everybody. And I just appreciate everybody watching. I appreciate you coming on, Jessi. And please go to all her, be friends with her, interact, and watch what she's doing as well, because this is all about helping each other out.
Bioevolutionary autocracy. Vote with your dollars. That's the other thing. Vote with your dollars. Support your community. Listen to the people on the fringe saying hard things. We've got to start listening to people saying hard things. The mainstream story is not the whole story. We need to support our communities and think more local, and stay tuned for bioevolutionary autocracy.
Right. We're going to be back. Hopefully she'll invite us back. And remember, this is the no judgment zone. If we can live without judgment, we can disagree on things, but I'll tell you one thing, I think we can agree on how difficult life can be sometimes, and we have pity parties and we don't dwell on it, but we move on. We don't become victims, or we're victims for a second, and then we move on and see how we can lead out, how we can, show ourselves how we can get through things. So
it's okay to disagree, but before all the ideology and the labels and the religions and the political, affiliations, we're human, and we got to get back to that. We got to get back
getting
to
know who we are and how we work, because that'll help us. Yeah. Okay, everybody, have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow probably.
Thank you.